Alrighty, guys, and we are live. I apologize for the slight delay here. It's the first time I'm trying to use this YouTube integrated live stream creator studio, trying to simplify things in my life. One of the themes of the year is consolidation for me. So, if anyone's on here right now, let me know if you can hear me, see me all right. I think we should be good now, but new laptop, new iPhone, new all that stuff, trying to get the iPhone set up as a camera. It was not letting me. Safari, for whatever reason, although it's Apple native and on the Apple environment, did not support it. But I'll forego all the technical jargon. Welcome to the first stream of the new year 2026 for Mexpat Lifestyle. So, guys, I know it's been a while since I've been on a live stream. That's completely fine. That is a bit of my fault on my end. I've been working a lot this last year. I've been doing a lot of family type stuff as well. So I'm going to keep this just short and brief, open it up to Q&A. I see that a lot of you have left comments over the past couple of weeks or so on videos. I will definitely cover those as well. So we'll keep this nice, short, sweet, informal. Be sure to drop any and all comments or questions in the chat, and I will be sure to get to them. So first, I will start off with a channel update. So you may have seen over the years, for guys that are OGs that go way back, I actually started the channel, I believe the name was Men's Shrine, and that was when I was going through more kind of personal men's self-help type topics. Admittingly, I did get involved in the red pill type spaces. Over the years, I've done my work there, outgrown those. As many of you probably know, for those who have been around for a while, Joel came and joined the channel. Actually, it's more than 2 years now. So Joel stayed with me at my condo here in Mexico City for a while. He's since moved on, got his own place. He has a nice little chica. He's quite happy with her, and I'm sure you've seen him all over the channel. So over the years, the channel has evolved a bit as we have evolved as people, and that's completely fine. That is one thing we advocate all of you do as well. Don't get stuck on certain topics. Don't get stuck in certain areas. So it went from more men's self-help and personal development to fitness and finance and primarily dating topics. So for the longest time, there was a short stint where the channel was gringo guides. So I thought, okay, I learned Spanish really quickly and using my own methodology years ago, and that I will go ahead and put that out there. Turns out that there's probably a lot better ways to do that. However, if you are interested, guys, in learning about very quick Spanish language acquisition type topics, definitely let us know. If you're not live on this, go ahead and leave a comment on the video. You'll find that there's multiple ways of going about it. I think that most language acquisition methods are inferior. I came up with the way I did it 20 years ago when I studied abroad down here. I picked up the language almost immediately. There are a lot of quick tricks and shortcuts, so definitely let me know if those are topics you're interested in. But turns out the whiteboard videos weren't doing too terribly well. People weren't interested in that. You have things like Duolingo and God, you know what? I asked Joel actually more specifically for what the current trending language acquisition type apps are. I learned it years ago when I studied abroad down here, long before smartphones existed or before people even had internet in everyday households here in Mexico. But that is one topic. You'll see we've gone back and forth on the channel, and there's two schools of thought there in terms of, if you move to Mexico, should you learn Spanish? My position is obviously if you're going to move to a country, it would behoove you to learn the language. However, that is not meant to discourage you from coming down here. Mexico City is a modern international cosmopolitan city. For most of you, we recommend that you live in more of the internationalized neighborhoods, more of the cosmopolitan neighborhoods, safer neighborhoods, more things to do, more developed. A lot of you, when you're coming down here, in fact, all of you likely source your income remotely. That is a trending topic and something that we cover quite a bit on the channel, something we can certainly cover more, that you need to source your income remotely. So a good chance is that you're likely making your money in English in a stronger currency. The key is to earn in dollars, libras, euros, strong world currency, and pay in pesos. That is called geo arbitrage. That is a major tenet of the Mexpat lifestyle. Why would you move to a country if you're going to live a lesser quality of life? That doesn't quite make sense, yet people still do it. If that's what you're looking to do, this probably is not the channel for you. But should you learn Spanish? It really depends on where you're at. If you're just doing your initial exploratory trip, you want to check out Mexico City, you think, hey, maybe this is a short list city. I want to get on the ground, get my feet wet, and see what it's like. For dating type purposes, when people come down here, our clients of ours, 95% of them want a long term, healthy, happy relationship. Now, when we get into your individual goal sets, a lot of guys, they're upper middle class or higher in their home countries. So naturally, they're going to want to date upper middle class in Mexico. And that being said, when you date girls that are upper middle class or above in Mexico, that means they usually have a degree of English proficiency. However, when you're out and about, when you're off the beaten path, to be honest, I live in a gringo bubble here. You can see this big, beautiful Mexico City skyline out here. You can get by on English alone. However, you're just scratching the tip of the iceberg or the surface, so to speak, to really get immersed in the culture and really live the vibrant, colorful, beautiful, or I say magical Mexico. Spanish is a must. That doesn't mean that you have to speak it at an academic level overnight. People here are very friendly, they're very opening, they're very accepting, and they're very hospitable. So if you're from the US, think in terms of Southern hospitality. I think I definitely get that same feel when I come to Mexico. So Spanish will just allow you to get deeper into the culture, immerse yourself more. And then if you want to make a life here, like I have, for example, paying rent, negotiating stuff. I bought a car last year. It'll be due for registration and taxes and paperwork and all that good stuff. I don't even know. I just take it to my mechanic. He quotes me for it. Then I give him a little something, something extra. That is kind of how these Latin cultures work. Just make sure that if I get pulled over, QR codes are scanned and documentation is checked, that I check out. So Spanish definitely helps you doing that as well. Dating wise, it will open you up to a broader market. Again, most guys are focused on upper middle class and above. So a lot of these girls, it's actually a requirement. When I went to university down here 20 some odd years ago, it was a requirement for a lot of majors to pass the TEFL or TOEFL, which is just an English language proficiency type exam. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they speak it with a high degree of fluidity, but from an academic theoretic standpoint, most working professionals have some degree of English proficiency. However, you definitely don't want to limit yourself. For example, let's say you go to meet the extended family. Mexico City is like a major city in many of your home countries, to where a lot of people aren't from the actual city. They have a term for it. It's somewhat derogatory, called chilango. A lot of people are not from Mexico City. They come in from the countryside. They make their money in Mexico City, and either they live a hybrid type lifestyle. So they usually end up staying and working in Mexico City, but they have places out in the country, out in the ranch, or what have you. So keep that in mind, guys, that Spanish language proficiency is something that you definitely want to look into. And I realize that I probably didn't turn on my VPN, and I'm likely streaming in Mexico here. That is absolutely fine as well. Sometimes errors are made. Do I even have this on? Let's see what happens here. I'm going to try to do this midstream to see if it does it. All right. Connect. Alrighty, I incurred some technical difficulties there trying my VPN, and then of course it readjusted my shot. So apologize for that, guys. I'm trying out a new setup here. I used to use a service called StreamYard before, but just trying to use YouTube's native features to see what it does in terms of if it gives us a boost or not. But what I was getting at is so for foreigners coming down here, definitely you do want to learn the local language. There are two schools of thought. If you're not quite there yet, don't worry too much. You'll be fine. You'll get there eventually, but just make an effort at it. You'll just live a richer, fuller lifestyle. There are people, I think even people in our community, that are adamant about not learning it. Me personally, that's not necessarily the view of Mexpat as the brand, but me personally, I don't necessarily understand that, because it's nice to be able to communicate, to be understood. And when it comes to dating, it'll definitely help you out. I always make the point that a lot of guys trying to escape their home countries, or this kind of Western feminization type thought, a lot of that comes via the English language. So the further you can remove yourself from that, then the less you'll have to deal with that. And it's actually kind of funny. I've dated girls here that speak English perfectly. They have an accent like I do. In fact, they probably speak it better than I do. As guys, a lot of times in your local language, you don't speak it as cleanly. You take a little more leeway. But I'll meet girls, or I've dated girls, to where they speak English perfectly. And then, but when you talk to them about more cultural type things, they don't have the same idioms or the colloquialisms that we do. As I guess native speakers or more people that come from countries that are native speaking. So I asked them, like, oh, did you go to the American school? And they speak it very, very well, but they still have brains. Culturally, they're wired as someone local, which is always an interesting type experience. Guys, when if you are thinking of moving abroad or traveling internationally, develop that mindset. Just be open minded. Languages are really fun. A lot of guys, I think, hold themselves back because you are going to sound kind of dumb at first. You will sound like a 1 year old, then a 2 year old, then a 3 year old. Then what I found when I was learning the language, that it seemed like equivalency wise, that for how many months you have, and you're making a concerted, honest to God effort in the language, that for every month you have with contact with the new culture, that it's equivalent to about a year. So about month three, I was like, oh, okay, I can. And literally, I had a host mom when I went to university down here for my first semester. I could speak with her 3 year old granddaughter. I'm like, okay, I speak it at a 3 year old level, and then month four, 4 year old level, month five, 5 year old level. And by about month 13, I actually, after my first semester, enrolled as a Mexican student. There's reason for that. I was playing sports too, so they wanted me to actually be enrolled as a Mexican student here, and that allowed me to do so. But by month 13, I was just fine in my academics. I did not get held behind. I could write and present, and every now and then I'd go on a radio show, like their equivalent of like a local public access type radio show from the university. Did absolutely fine. I've done interviews in Spanish. I always joke with the guests, like, do I need subtitles? I am a millennial, so I watch subtitles myself, even with English, of course. Being in Mexico, using a VPN for a lot of the apps, I have access to all my American accounts, and I have Mexican accounts for things too. But sometimes, for example, we're in the NFL playoffs, I just tap into my American accounts. A lot of times the Spanish language option isn't available. But again, dating girls that are upper middle class or above, they have some degree of English language proficiency. So with the subtitles on, they can usually get by just fine. And that's kind of an added benefit too for when you're dating a lot of girls. A lot of girls, they want to learn a degree of English as well, or again, they have studied it formally, but they don't necessarily practice it in a day-to-day lifestyle, so it helps them out as well. I know that this is a topic that can cause controversy sometimes with locals, but guys, in terms of just international global business, English is the de facto language. It's no longer French, it's no longer Latin, although Latin's a fascinating language. If you have basic understanding of Latin and Greek, you will learn Spanish much, much quicker because it has a very high degree of mutual intelligibility, is what that is called. So, for example, any words that end in a tion in English, like education, foundation, institution, educación, fundación, institución. Congratulations, you now have hundreds of new words at your disposal, and but took me what 10 seconds to give you that role. I identified that there were 30 some odd, I think it was like 33 tablas de conversión, or conversion tables. Learn those, lock those in. Guess what? Going English to Spanish or Spanish to English, you automatically have about half of the vocabulary. And same with the grammar. The grammar is very tough for English speakers. We have very simple conjugations. It is literally just the infinitive, except from the third person. We usually added an S in the simple present tense. In Spanish, every single subject gets its own conjugation, and they have many more tenses than we do. They have two different past tenses, which causes a lot of confusion for English speakers. Then once you think you have that all down, they introduce a new variable called subjunctive in the language. So if it's any wants, thoughts, goals, desires, wishes, needs, then you get to completely relearn those grammar tables all over. But the cool thing is, what I did is you learn, I memorized the first, there's a book called 501 Spanish Verbs, memorize all of those, learn them in just the simple present tense, and think in terms of equivalency. So for English speakers, guys, you know that if you're speaking with someone who's not native to the English language, if you say, store, I go tomorrow, okay, that's not correct. It's not proper English, but we have a pretty good understanding that guy's probably going to go to the store tomorrow. So that is a solid starting point. Just learn, it's baby steps along the way, but just what I recommend, just dive headfirst into it, guys. And it is a fun process. Sometimes I miss the days where I didn't speak Spanish as well. I came down here 20 years ago, so I had the little yellow, no iPhones, no smartphones, heaven forbid, no AI, no translating in real-time headphones. I had a little yellow English to the Spanish language dictionary, and I'd try to talk to a girl in public. Oh, hold on, espérame tantito, and then I'd open it up and then point at the words, and it was fun. It was kind of endearing. Now, as the relationship developed, there would be times, for example, where at a restaurant there's a problem with the bill. Well, I'm kind of handicapped there. So then you have to put her in the masculine by her taking the lead in doing so. So that's why I advocate, guys, definitely don't beat yourself up over it, but make a concerted effort to learn the language. You will open up a lot more opportunities for yourself. You'll have much more depth in your friendships and interactions and dating overall. So definitely do yourself a favor, make an effort in the language, and it's fun. You are going to screw up. And I'm thinking for this channel too, coming into the new year, that I might start doing some reaction type videos. There's one that I watched a while ago, and we give it to a lot of our new clients, that when you learn a new language, you effectively create a new brain. You create a second brain. So there's even studies that showed that things like addictions or insecurities or former identities, things like negative self-talk that held you back previously, you create a parallel brain in the new language, so you can overcome a lot of those things very quickly. So there are a lot of benefits there, guys, but overall you'll just have a lot more fun. Mexico's a fun place. Mexicans are fun people, and when you can speak their language and speak it well, then you'll just open up a lot more doors for yourself, and you'll get a much larger breadth of the culture. Not to mention the day-to-day. Like, for example, when I rented the apartment, I have orders coming to the house all the time. If you're doing business locally, going to buy a car, I think honestly my written Spanish is a lot better than my spoken Spanish, so I'll set everything up via text or whatever, and then I show up with this happy gringo face, and they're like, "Oh my god, that was you?" I'm like, "Yep, yes sir," or "Yes, sí señor." Hey Derek, how you doing? Hello from San Diego. I know I don't have many live streamers on here now. It's been years since I've done a live stream on this channel. I'll try to start picking this up with more of a higher degree of regularity. So as when I started the channel years ago, it starts off with a couple, and then it's a couple dozen, and you can even get up to a couple hundred or so. So guys, if you do have any questions, let me know them. If not, I will go through a couple that I have seen recently pop up on the channel. If you're watching this video after the fact, feel free to leave any questions at all. But one that I got, a lot of people think in terms of, okay, well, Mexico City, why would I want to go there? A lot of times there's a safety concern. So I'll address that real quick. Guys, if you're watching the news to get your information, realize that that is made to piss you off. I'm guilty of it too. I see crazy stuff in the news. Oh my God, what's going on back in a country I haven't lived in years, in a state that I've been to once via a layover. At the end of the day, when you pull yourself out from all that, do you really care? It is engineered to make you pissed off. If you're consuming content and you're getting a negative, anxious feeling in your gut, and then you can't sleep, or you have random racing thoughts in your head as you're going about your day, or you're at the gym, then that's probably a good sign that you shouldn't be consuming that content. There's much more productive things you can be putting in your head. And one thing that's really cool is that when you live abroad, a lot of times you don't live in your home culture anymore. So that stuff doesn't really, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't impact you. There's really no reason to be polluting or contaminating your thought space with things that don't serve you. I know it's really hard to stay away from sometimes. I was actually at home recently for Christmas. My grandma, she was watching a major news talking head figure, and I noticed she was kind of down. She was kind of depressed. So I told her, I was like, "Grandma, no more watching this sad major news stream media talking head." And I was like, "Take a week off and just see what happens." And then just immediately smile back on her face. Just a lot more positive energy, just better positive outlook, general demeanor overall in life. So be very careful about what you put in your head. But a lot of times people come to this channel and they ask these questions like, hey, safety concerns. So I say it's just like any city anywhere in the world. Stick to the nice neighborhoods. Be very diligent about your friend group. Mexico City has, they say officially like 22 million, but Mexico State starts like 4 blocks over here, and it doesn't include those in the population estimates a lot. As you're flying into the city, you'll see there's a giant valley. Ton of people living here. I'd say it's safer on the 30 million side, probably even higher. One thing Mexico does do really, really well is their census. So I think look up official government figures. I think it's usually around 22 million or so in Mexico City proper, but I'd say it's probably 30 million in this valley. And So stick to the neighborhoods. There's memes that go around every now and then. It says Mexico City according to foreigners or according to gringos, and they're spot on. It's the nice neighborhood. So I live in Polanco. Condesa is a good one. Reforma is a good one. I like Reforma a lot of bit. There's a lot of up and coming neighborhoods. Lomas is great. Santa Fe is a little further to the south, a little further removed from the day to day like cool stuff going on. But a general rule is stick to the perimeter of the park, and that's kind of like in New York City or any major city for that matter. Stick to the nicer areas. You're not going to have any problems. I feel a lot safer walking around my neighborhood than I do anywhere in the U.S. because mental illness isn't really a thing here. Yes, there is a poverty question in Mexico as a whole, as the country, but Mexico City specifically is like a New York City. It's like Chicago, LA, London, Tokyo. It is a major world class cosmopolitan city. So stick to the nicer areas and you're just going to have a nicer time overall. Derek, I see your question here. Dating ideas in Mexico City, place to go, restaurants, etc. What do they expect on the first couple of dates? So, uh, in general, stick to the nicer neighborhoods I just mentioned. There's a lot of green spaces here, so I like going to the park for a first date. Typically, for me personally, though, I just do like a coffee. There's a lot of nice ones here. There's a place in Polanco called El Péndulo. Mexico City has a bunch of really cool libraries and bookstores. They have a bunch of really cool themed cafes. So if you're going down more towards Coyoacan, which is where there's a lot of universities here, but UNAM is the major university. I believe when I was looking at university programs here 20 years ago, it was one of the largest universities in the world in terms of population, 300,000 plus students. Again, this was 20 plus years ago. But in that area, it's more kind of artisan, more kind of nostalgic, very cool vibe. So if you're down in Coyoacan, I've seen like theme cafes. They have like pink cafes and Hello Kitty cafes. And a girl I was dating one time, every weekend we'd actually go on themes. There's like Tim Burton themed cafes. There's Harry Potter themed cafes. So pick a good neighborhood and then go out on foot, explore it, tuck into places. Again, people are very warm. They're very hospitable. They're very open and they're very curious. They're like, hey, obviously with a face like mine here, I'm a foreigner. What brings you to town? What are you doing here? Oh, that's cool. Hey, check out my little boutique store, check out my shop or my bar, or my restaurant. Now, when you live here for a while, it's usually like your home market. So Derek, I actually lived in San Diego for like 10 plus years. I was in Cortez Hill, so a little north of downtown, contained by the five that comes around it there. So I'd stick to Cortez Hill. I'd go to Bankers Hill sometimes. Hillcrest, the neighborhood, a lot of fun, lively stuff going on there. Actually, that was a great place to take girls on dates because you didn't have to worry about them being harassed as much as other parts of town. Although in general, when I lived there, San Diego is a great place. So I lived downtown Cortez Hill for like 10 years. I lived in Mission Beach for a while. I really liked Mission Beach as well. Before I left San Diego, just wanted to get the beach vibe. Which was really cool. Rode my bike up and down the boardwalk every morning for my cardio session. I was close enough to Pacific Beach to be close to the craziness, but not have it come home to me. But I found when I lived in Mission Beach, actually, I went to, what was it called? Like La Isla, I think was the name of the bar. They do trivia nights on Wednesdays. Some of those spots in PB I'd hit up every now and then when I had guests in town, but Little Italy's fantastic. So like I love the farmers market on Sundays. There's a lot of cool trendy stuff there. So in your general neighborhood, just like you do at home, you'll get an idea of the lay of the land and you'll find your spots, the places you go to most. And I actually learned this in San Diego. Was that I woke up, I worked, I'd go home, I'd work out, I'd eat dinner, maybe I'd go on a date, and then I'd go to bed and I'd do it all again. Weekends, I usually stuck to the neighborhood too. So when I was downtown, I was downtown. When I was in Mission Beach, it was usually PB or Mission Beach type area as well. So you notice that your footprint, although you live in a major world city, your footprint normally day to day is fairly small. So typically keep it to the neighborhood. That's just for logistics purposes. Again, if you pick a nicer neighborhood, Little Italy is a great first date neighborhood in San Diego. So the equivalency of a Little Italy in Mexico City, it'd be like a Roma Condesa, Reforma, one of those types of areas, and then just find something close to you. So I just do a coffee shop close to me. I'm next to a bunch of really cool plazas. Miana, Palacio de Hierro, and Antara are close. So non kind of lower lift type areas. There is a security factor here. So when you tell a girl, "Hey, just meet me at Antara at this time," I go to a Pendolo here in Polanco. Great low risk, high security, trustworthy factor to go to. Any types of those spots. I know Joel's on the channel a lot. He likes parks for first dates. I like parks for first dates too. General, kind of like the US. I don't really do dinner, like expensive dinners for first dates. That's after we've been dating for a while. First couple of dates for girls, usually the first date, coffee date for me is a sniff test. I did run the straight to the house model for years and years. I actually optimized my inbound, primarily online dating funnel for straight to the house. So, um, there are ways to do that. I'm a digital marketer by trade, so my mind naturally just thinks in terms of how do I reduce friction from the funnel. I am now dating more intently. I'm going more for quality over quantity. So I'm actually artificially reintroducing friction into the funnel. So now my current dating strategy is a coffee date. And it's again, it's just a low effort, kind of low expectation. There is a security factor here. So the girl wants to know, like, am I being catfished? Is this a real guy? Really, it's just to smell, pass the smell test or the sniff test. So think of it in terms like you're getting a new job. It's the phone screen with the recruiter. Usually low pressure. If a recruiter hits me up, I know that I'm not trying to sell the recruiter. They're just trying to check. They're just trying to go through a checklist. Like, do you have the skill set? Do you have the experience? Are you interested in the job? Are our salary bands aligned or somewhat aligned? And there is room for flexibility there. So first date, usually in Mexico City, coffee shop's a great date. What do they expect on the first couple of dates? Second date, usually I'll do a dinner at my place. I don't like to go out to fancy restaurants too much, although if you do work with us at some point, come down here. We do fancy dinners, usually once a week, once every 1 or 2 weeks or so. That's for guys in the network. And then we typically stick to about $100 per person. So we just go in family style. We'll go to a 5-star restaurant, rack up a giant bill. But if there's 15 guys and it's a 1,500 bill, and that's $1,500 in Mexico City. So a really nice dinner is it cost wise is comparable like Applebee's in the US, assuming you don't get drinks. Most of the guys in our group here actually don't drink; they drink very little. So cocktails is where you raise that cost up on the bill. So about $100 per person. We do that fairly often, so you can get some really nice dinners for that. But I like to cook. I'm into health, so and I work a lot too. That's why you haven't seen me personally too much on the channel, although I started it years ago flying solo before Joel came on board. But I usually just do dinner to the house because, again, on that first date, the coffee date, that we already passed the sniff test. And a lot of times I still run my online opening dating scripts to get her back to the house. And then the coffee date is for me to feel it out. And I learned this years ago. I did the coffee dates to where I realized I'd show up for the coffee date and the girl's like, "Oh yeah, we're good. Like let's just go back to your place." So it depends on, think of it in terms of designing a marketing funnel. So how quickly do you want to get her back to the house? If you optimize for that, you can actually skip coffee dates entirely. I never recommend high cost ticket first dates because then you get yourself in another category. You don't want her to see like, "Hey, foreigner," that equals an ATM. So you don't want to put yourself in that position either. But we can get much more depth in it if you want to work one-on-one, or we can dive more into it here too. Guadalajara versus Mexico City video the other day was great. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. It really comes down to lifestyle design. You'll notice that we did change the name of the channel from dating to lifestyle. And that's really because most guys in our group, they all have long-term girlfriends. A couple guys we have getting married. I think we even have some guys that are having kids. He's now back in the US, but named his first boy after my last name, which was pretty cool. So changing lives, making differences, advocating healthy, happy relationships. I personally have always been a nerd about the intercultural type topics. I grew up on the West Coast, grew up on a cherry farm, heard Spanish all around me. Initially, I came to Mexico, or I went to Guadalajara to study abroad because I thought I need to learn Spanish. If I'm going to inherit this farm, I need to learn Spanish, and then realize, oh, there's much more to the Spanish language than harvesting cherries. Although I still go back every summer during cherry harvest. It's just a part of who I am. It's my roots. I have little cousins managing the harvest now, but oh, there's a whole world that the Spanish language opens you up to. And then 20 some odd years later, here I am, still here in Mexico, alive and thriving. Uh, Let's see what's next. I'm in Little Italy. Yeah, Little Italy is great. First trip to Mexico City is in August. Super excited. Yeah, definitely be sure to drop a line. I think Joel manages the channel, like day to day technical back end stuff. So I'm sure there'll be a link in the description. If not, here, let me just put it in the chat here. I don't really do IG too much anymore. To be honest, I fell into a trap that a lot of guys do when they first come to Mexico. I was going out all the time. There is a foreign factor. If you have a decent income, I'm a musician too. Joel's a musician. Joel's a DJ. I'm a guitarist and singer. So you can become very popular very fast, but that, to be honest, it kind of got distracting. I lived that lifestyle, had a ton of fun with a ton of beautiful women, but really my day-to-day focus is more so, okay, who's going to what events on the weekend. I became Mr. Socialite. I'm actually naturally introverted by nature, and I was going out and it was pulling me away from my professional focus. So for now, it's really just heads down, grinding, making money, uh, getting up uh, a new echelon in life in terms of like economics, finances, professional prowess, and what have you. But first trip to Mexico City, yeah, you should be excited. It's a really cool city. You'll have a good time. When we work with guys one on one, I know if you're living in the US, sometimes the question is, okay, how do I improve my dating life? Or like, will I have success? You will have success in Mexico City. It just depends on what you're trying to optimize for. And again, a lot of that comes down to just sheer population density. There is a degree of a foreign factor. That doesn't mean you have to be a white Anglo or I'm a WASP, white Anglo-Saxon, Protestant American. A lot of Mexican Americans come down here and do really well. They want to reconnect with their roots, but you leverage geo arbitrage. You make money in dollars, you pay in pesos. A lot of those guys do really well. We have Indian guys, Paki guys here from the UK that do very, very well. You've seen them on the channel. We have black guys down here that do very, very well. There is still a very high degree of prejudice in Mexico. Not so much in this city. Again, think in terms of global cities. So I know I grew up in the country on the West Coast. When I first went to New York City, I thought, oh, this is like the pearl of my own country. The first dinner I was at, we were going around the table. Where's everyone from? Oh, Italy, Portugal, Spain, what have you. I was the only American at the table. I was like, I'm from this country, but there was nobody in that group that was actually from the United States except for me. Mexico City isn't quite at that level. It can be there depending upon what sort of subcultures you integrate yourself with. So if you get into the international scene, you'll meet people from all over the world. It's just not Americans. It's just not English speakers. In fact, there's a lot of other Spanish speakers from other Spanish speaking countries here, other Latin countries, a lot of French people here, a lot of Italians here. The neighborhood I'm in, there's a large Jewish population here. So there's really is something for everyone. It really just depends on what you're looking for. That's why I recommend Mexico City over Guadalajara for your first foray into Mexico, because it does give you a large cross section of the global culture. Guadalajara, I think, is a great place to start a family. I covered it in the video. We can put a link here in the description. I really enjoyed Guadalajara. I'm glad I studied abroad there because my goal studying abroad was to learn Spanish. At that time, there weren't a lot of foreigners. And the foreigners that were there, they were either snowbirds, mostly US Canadian expats, or snowbirds. So summer months, warmer months back up north, colder months down in south. And then it was outside of Guadalajara. So Lake Chapala is a great retiree community. Ajijic is a town where it's mostly English speakers. Again, Canadian American snowbirds. We have worked with pensioners. We have worked with retirees. That's more of my parents' type generation. In fact, I think my folks are in Cancun right now. I don't know why they didn't swing by and visit me. Probably because I just saw them last weekend in Texas, and then I saw them up near Seattle around Christmas time. But that's also a reason I really like Mexico City too. And at that point in my career, I was working for one of the big four consulting firms. So I had to be a direct flight away from every major city, mostly New York, Miami, Los Angeles, occasionally London. So Mexico City just fit that mix. And then the particular consulting firm I was working for, they have 3 offices here in the neighborhood as well. I worked remotely based out of the Seattle office, but I'd go into the office every now and then. Guadalajara is better. Most dudes strike out because it's a long game city. Yep, I definitely agree with that. When I went to school in Guadalajara, and it was likely a degree of me not understanding my value yet, me being young, me not knowing Spanish that well yet, but it took me 8 months to get intimate with the first girl I was dating. And in fact, to this day, she and I are still really close. We're great friends. She has a place in Cancun. When she has a layover in Mexico City. We link up. If I ever go to Guadalajara, we link up. So you are definitely right. I do remember that in my university days. I did build a bit of a pipeline for myself. So I think first semester, nothing, second semester, one, third semester, three, and then and then so on. It was exponential, which I saw the same thing in Mexico City. But you really do have to play the long game there. At least that was my experience when I lived there back in my university days. I have been back since. I can. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for just a quick fling, I've optimized for that. I can do that a lot quicker. Dating apps didn't exist back when I was in school. Smartphones didn't exist. Internet, we had to go to internet cafes, or I'd go to the library. We did have Wi-Fi in the cafeteria, so the gringos would bring our laptops during lunchtime, or like they still did long siesta. So a lot of us would be in the cafeteria on Skype if we weren't in the gym. Wi-Fi was not a thing in the house back when I was there. So in my experience, and again, this was 20 some odd years ago, um, I did have to play the long game. I think now depends on if you're looking for a longer term commitment, if you're looking for a higher quality girl, there still is an element of the long game to be played. I think it is a much more traditional city. I've seen that recently as I've gone back, but if you're looking for just a fun, quick weekend fling, you can certainly do that as well. Again, that really comes down to more population density. Yeah, there's millions of people there. Mexico City has 10 times as much of the population, but percentage wise, even if there's a lesser percentage or per capita girls that are willing to hook up with a foreigner, there's still millions of people in Guadalajara, so you can still find that if that's what you're looking for. Same in Mexico City, you just scale that a lot higher. You can really you can have a lot of fun, but you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. Or in my case, and a lot of guys we've worked with, a lot of times it's not about, okay, am I going to be able to get a date? Yes, you will get a date. It's really, what are you looking for? What do you want to optimize for? And then 95% of guys we work with, again, they want long-term relationships. So it's really how to pick the best option. It's not about getting options. Now, if you're having trouble with that, then those are really basic things we can fix. But really, it's just, how do you manage your calendar? How do you optimize for what you're looking for? And then a lot of the intercultural stuff as well. That'll certainly help you out. And then I dropped my IG there, guys, if you want to, if you want to reach out to me personal. The girls you hook up with are never originally from Guadalajara. Yeah, that's true. When I was in university, I think, well, the first girl I hooked up with was from there. But again, that was like 8 months of me going out with her. When I told the story earlier about using the little pocket dictionary, I think when I asked her out initially, I even met her at a bar that was for foreigners. Yeah, it was a little pocket dictionary. We'd go to movies, we'd hold hands, we'd go to the park. It was actually kind of cute. Now I think being a little more seasoned in the game, sometimes those magical, mystical days, I miss those sometimes when I didn't really know what I was doing. Everything was a mystery and it was exciting. Now it's like I have everything so optimized in my head that I know what stage of the conversion path she's in. And it's really about, okay, do I want to continue this interaction, or do I want to nix it and move on to something that's more likely to optimize, more likely to convert for what I'm optimizing for? So, yep, definitely agree with that. I think I did hook up with a few neighbors in Guadalajara. They were, one is from Aguascalientes, another one is from Tabasco. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a fair assessment. What are the top 3 dating apps to use there? Typically the big 3, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. What I recommend is try them out on the free versions. If you're still stateside, use your passport mode to get a feel for it. Here's a general gist though. Tinder, you'll get a much larger cross section of society. You'll get the lowest tier girls, and you'll get to a lesser degree the highest tier girls. They pop up every now and then, but not so much. You normally just get a good cross section of the solid middle class. On Tinder here. Bumble was the highest converter for me in terms years ago of getting more middle upper class girls. That was because, and I'm not sure if this is still the case, but back when they first came out, you had to have iOS to access the apps. So just by virtue of people that can afford an iPhone typically belong to higher classes here. Hinge, I know a lot of people that get good results on there. I personally haven't, but those are not the girls I'm going after. So those are more your American, Canadian, Aussie, European girls. A lot of them might harbor an ideology that guys are trying to escape, but I know other foreigners, a lot of ethnic guys, a lot of our kind of Arab guys, black guys, Asian guys, they do really well on Hinge as well. I have local Mexican friends that do well on Hinge. They get like Russian girls, Eastern European girls. For me personally, I like Latinas, so I just kind of stick to Tinder now. I don't date with as much volume as I have in years past. And a lot of girls I just meet through my social circles. Another app which is really, really good, but this requires more advanced level online dating skills, that is seeking.com. Uh, if you want to go on there and pay for play, that's fine. You'll find those girls on there. But what you want to do is you want to filter out the girls that are your like obvious pros or pay for play. Unless that's what you're looking for. That's not what this channel is for. You really don't need dating advice at that point. If you just pony up your wallet and pull out some cash, like why are you watching me? You don't need any of that stuff. But you will get girls on there. They're self-selecting because they want like a higher upper tier guy. It's a profile style app. So I use the desktop version. I'll get on there maybe once a year or so, and then you filter that. So there's different filters for what you're looking for. You can say I'm looking for like pay for, or like it's like per encounter or sugar, like any of those. I don't entertain any of those. For quality time spent is one. So you select those filters, and then usually I'll look for girls that have joined the app recently. You can filter by the most recent joined. You can filter by like 7 days or less, 14 days or less. And you'll get an idea, guys, pretty quickly when you get on that app by reading their profiles. You'll want the type of girl that I do my standard opener, and then usually she'll say something like, oh my God, my friend told me to get on this app, but it's really gross. I'm getting all these 50-year-old guys sending me D pics and I don't like it. Hey, here's my number, hit me up. And then she never gets back on the app again. For that, a lot of the best girls I've dated on a longer term basis, I've found on that app. But if she's had her profile on there since 2017, and she's an obvious pro, you can tell. She'll drop the Instagram if she has a link to the OnlyFans or like, whatever, then yeah, definitely filter her out. Once you get the WhatsApp, here's another pro tip. And again, Seeking is only for guys that I'd say are more advanced on the online dating game. But when you get her number, just look it up on Google. The pro institution is legal in Mexico, so they have like announcement type sites, whatever. Punch her number into Google. If she shows up on one of those Anuncio sites, then guess what? Unless that's what you're looking for, again, that's not what we're about. We don't work with people like that. 95% of our guys want long-term, healthy, happy relationships. That's what I'm optimizing for now. I do the rotation thing still, but I like healthy longer term relationships. So you can filter that out on the Seeking app. It just takes a little more experience in how to do so and how to discern if she's like an actual just solid girl, or if she's she has an alternative agenda there. Have you ever been to Monterrey? No, I actually haven't. I've been everywhere in Mexico, sans some of the border states. I haven't been to Monterrey. When I was playing ball down here, actually, I was in Guadalajara. Monterrey was actually kind of dangerous at that time, so they didn't let us travel there. And then since I've come back, to be honest, I don't travel Mexico as much as I did when I was in college. When I was in college, I was playing baseball, so I went to every corner of the country except for parts that were off limits at that time. Now I pretty much just stick to Mexico City, and then when I travel, I'm often leaving the country, or I'll go to like a tourist type area because family's coming down or like a friend's coming down, and we'll just meet up and hang out, and then just get a quick flight. I go to Los Cabos every now and then. I've got a good buddy in Tulum. My family goes to Cancun or Los Cabos every now and then, so I'll meet with them. I go to Puerto Vallarta every now and then. Living in Guadalajara, it's 3.5, 4 hours away. I used to really like that, and so on. From what I find, if you're pretty direct on sinking, saying you're not interested in pay to play, a good amount of the women on there would just date normally. Yes. I actually write that in my profile too. So I literally say in English and Spanish, like, not looking for pay to play. I have no necessity. You'll get a girl every now and then. She'll ask you in Spanish, like, ¿qué tipo de acuerdo buscas? Or like, what sort of arrangement are you seeking? I just say, hey, not looking for that. No judgment, but I don't have the necessity. I can get it on my own. Even in the States, even I've spent the last few summers in Europe, even in Europe, have no problem doing it on my own. So like, I'm not judging if you do that, but I personally have not had a necessity. And a lot of guys that come down, we've never worked with people that are into that. Or I think we've had a couple of clients that they've done that type of stuff before, but they'd really rather not. So that's more of a mindset shift of like, hey, you don't have to pay to play. You are worth enough on your own. You do offer value to the market, and women would be thrilled to date you. That's more just kind of some internal hangups we have to work on. Again, I haven't worked with anyone like that in years. Those guys came from back, guys that have been on following the channel for a while back when I did like more red pill type stuff. I was a pretty prominent guest on Rich Cooper's podcast. So every now and then we'd get those types of guys, but they weren't guys that were proud of that by any means. That's a good point. On my profile, I literally write out, hey, not looking for pay to play, not looking for sugar, just tired of the riffraff on Tinder. I want a girl at my level. And at the end of the day, most of the guys that we've worked with, I find that personally, like I don't need her to be international supermodel, but I also don't want a barrio slum either. I want a girl like me, lives a similar lifestyle to me, and I find that works pretty well. So, guys, let me know if you have any more questions. Actually, I'm actually quite surprised. The first stream back in a while, we got quite a bit of engagement here. I definitely appreciate the interaction, and I'll do these a lot more often because, to be honest, I started the channel as a podcast. I was on the radio when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed the podcasting format. I personally am not that good at doing videos of like writing the scripts. You'll see I've done some of the presentation style. That's because Big Four Consulting, the meme or the joke is like, oh yeah, $50,000 for a presentation. That there is kind of some truth to that. So got really good at the presentation format, but I prefer just to come on here and riff, and then Joel will do his magic and do the clips and reels or whatever as a channel marketing strategy. Good question. So what is a good monthly budget in US dollars and living in Condesa or Roma Norte with dating and going out and maybe a little travel around the country, etc.? 5 to 7K. So, I've ran different budgets. I hired a business coach years ago, and I did 3 different budgets. So for me, I did my bare minimum budget. That's just to pay the bills. So my bare minimum pay the bills budget is $2,000 a month. I pay roughly $1,200 in rent. Internet's super cheap. It's $50. I actually have 2 separate lines. Because this summer, one of them kept breaking out and it was driving me nuts because it would take a week for the guy to come here, and then it interrupted my professional workflow. So I have 2 lines. So I pay about $100 per internet, just like you'd get in the US. Fiber optic right to the building where I live in a nicer neighborhood. I'm in Polanco. Water, gas, that's all negligible. It's like 20, $30 a month, maybe for each of those. Electricity, my electricity was roughly $20, $30 a month. Mexico's equivalent of like a liberal city. So you do have the government subsidizes a lot of stuff. So for electricity, I was 20, $30 a month. I did install HVAC the last few months. So if I'm running the air conditioner aggressively, that goes up to around $60, $70 per month, but definitely way cheaper than the US. Food costs for me, if I'm on a minimalist budget, it's about $100 a month. If I'm going out once a week, again, we do these formal dinners. That's about $100 per time I go out. If I'm just taking a chica out, usually it's like $50, $60, $70. I haven't drank in a year or so that saves a lot of money, but my minimalist budget is $2,000 a month. That is just paying all the bills, not having to worry about it, just living a pretty good life. If you want to go out and travel more, I find that personally, I end up paying around, it's about $1,000 per week. So 4,000 or so per month. Personally, I like to make around 8,000, 9,000 a month. That allows me to invest half of my income. There are tax benefits here. So you get the foreign earned income exemption. That is, I believe it's up to like 100. It'll be time to file taxes here soon. I believe it's up to 130, 136,000 or so now. So that's federal income tax you get back. I am originally from Washington State. So when I left California years ago, I went home, went to my mom's house, took a piece of mail, went to the DMV, got a new license with a Washington address. So no income tax statewide. So I like to be, I think when my business coach and I did this, it was $8,888 per month. That's where I live very comfortably. I can invest half my income, and then I have a more aggressive personal target of about 30,000. I've gotten there a couple months. Guys, we can get on this too. I know a lot of you are asking about work. So I've found it's more difficult to get a full-time employee type job. However, contract work, a lot of these big companies, even your main companies, I'm talking with a couple of main companies right now, have no problem hiring Americans that are outsourced on a contract basis. I've taken 1099 gigs before. That does cause some tax implications, but if you're living full time in Mexico, then you hit that FEIE, that foreign earned income exemption. So you don't have to worry about that because you get your first 120, 130, 135, whatever it is now, $1,000 back in taxes. So I personally, I'm trying to get more towards consistently that 30K mark. Um, I'm actually on a lean month right now, so I'm at about 1,000 per week. That still lives comfortably. I can go out once a week. I can eat really well at home. That pays the rent and all the bills. I have no headaches, no qualms. However, I've had to pause my investment allocations, which I personally do not like. That is one of the downsides if you're doing the contract work route. I have landed some FTE positions before, full-time employment, but a lot of times they're lower than my degree of professional proficiency. So a lot of times those jobs don't last long because I'm doing stuff that I've done maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago in my career, and it's just not a good fit long term. What I have found works is you can apply for jobs that are below your current level of proficiency. And then when you get them on the phone screen, so guys, I've seen people leave comments in the videos, recent videos. On the phone screen, you let them know. So here's the line I use. I say, hey, I am based in Washington State for legal tax compliance purposes. I've worked for major big four firms. They've had no issues doing it. If it is a company cultural policy that they want people physically in the office, I've found I'm from Washington State. A lot of Seattle companies, so your Amazons, Microsoft usually wants people in office, although Microsoft and Amazon will every now and then, and I find these roles via recruiters. So your LinkedIn game has to get on point, just like your dating app game. Recruiters will reach out to you, and sometimes you'll get like 3, 6, or 9 month gigs with your larger Washington-based companies, but those are on contract basis. So much like running the rotation model, which is what I do, I prefer longer-term engagements or relationships with women. That's how I run my professional model as well. So just be forthcoming. Don't mislead or anything on that initial phone screen. If you win over the recruiter, they'll go to bat for you. They'll do a lot of those internal conversations for you. So it's not it's harder to get remote jobs than it was like pandemic days, but it's certainly not impossible. What I find is that I have to manage my pipeline. So usually January, February, March are leaner months. People start picking up February, March, April timeframe hiring wise. Sometimes you'll have multiple contracts. So I'll do like a fractional type thing. Usually in the summer, I make hand over fist in money. I'll have closer to 20, 30K months. And then again, as the end of the year comes up, I also find that looking for new work, those conversations, you'll have some pipeline momentum. It'll start to slow down a bit. And then usually once you're in the new year, the conversations progressively start to pick up. So what I do, I have and most of the guys in our group, guys, if you work with us and you come to Mexico City and you're in our group, these are the conversations we have over formal dinners is how you account for these. So I'll have months that are 20, 30K, and then I'll have leaner months that are maybe 4 or 5K. What I do is I create a liquidity buffer. So think like long-term treasury bonds, nothing sexy. And then I use that. I've had to tap into that this month to offset the leaner level of income, and I'm making no net new allocations. However, that's planned for. I've been down here for 5 years. I know that it's going to pick up again. I know I'm going to have crazy months where going back to my minimalist budget. I'm on my minimalist budget, but I like to have fun. I like to go out. I travel every now and then. So I'm living on $1,000 per week right now. I find that when I'm having those $20,000, $30,000 months, I'm so busy that I don't have time to spend money. So a lot of times I'm spending like $2,500 a month, and then everything gets invested. So we can get into, I'm not a seasoned investor. A lot of guys in our group are, so we can definitely, if you join the Mexpat community or work with us, we have a spirituality group, we have a fitness group, we have a dating group, we have a finance group. We do have some serious financial hitters down here, and I've found that independent of the conclusions they came to how to optimize for this lifestyle, that we all kind of do the same thing. Account for the fact that there's leaner months and there's richer months, and then you maintain that liquidity buffer. You can tap into it when needed. The first time a good paycheck comes in, I'll top that up literally in a week or two. once the income starts coming in again. And then there will be high periods where I'm just so busy I don't have time to spend money or date or do anything, and then everything gets invested. So I think last year I ended up investing like $100,000 last year, and that all came in like the last 6 months of last year. So there are some lifestyle considerations. This does take some patience. It takes remapping your brain. I know when I first came down here, it was really tough because I didn't plan for it. I had my 3 to 6 months savings, which um, that was based on my U.S. cost of living. There is a factor or a lifestyle factor here. I think rent wise, I pay roughly 20-25% of what I would for the same place in places like California, Seattle, New York. Day to day living wise, it's roughly a third or so. Food, when you're going out, yeah, it's roughly a third or so. So it depends on how you set up your lifestyle. But again, if you want to take that next step and actually think about coming down here, these are conversations we will have. Literally, I just white label what my business coach gave me. I paid him to white label it. We will go through this activity of how you want to plan your lifestyle. Income is a big one. I think now my goal now is I've already gotten to the point where I can live off my minimalist budget just on investments alone. The next goal is to live off of what I'm comfortable with, $1,000 per week minimum, off of investments alone. Again, I personally like to be around 8,000, 9,000 or so a month because that allows me to invest half of my income. Anything above that, it just all gets invested. So for me, this is a geo arbitrage play. I plan on staying in Mexico City for the long term, but to be honest, at some point, I want to go home, buy a house in cash, maybe set roots there, but I will always maintain a Mexico residency. So me personally, I truly want an optimized international lifestyle. I'm from the country. I love the country. I miss it sometimes. Love my family to death. Missing the death when I go home. Little nieces and nephews and cousins are having kids, and friends have older kids. My friends' older kids are asking me about coming to Mexico. So like I have my roots. I want to make sure that I maintain those. Family is very important to me, but I've also opened my family up to the international lifestyle too, where they have places at home, but they come down here all the time, or we get on airplanes, we meet up with each other in other countries. So really the name of the game of this lifestyle, geo arbitrage, is a huge one. Don't come to Mexico thinking that, okay, everything's terrible at home, so it's all of a sudden going to be better in Mexico. You still have to do the inner work. So take care of your health, take care of your finances, take care of your fitness, do the dating work you have to on the ground, learn how to cold approach in your home city. What I always say is I always did really well in California, but much like the lifestyle multiplier, rent is about a third to a fifth as much as it would be for the same exact place, or equivalent in California. My dating life's the same way. So like I dated really cool girls in San Diego. I've dated girls all over the US, beautiful girls, even American girls, they do exist, but I found you put in a lot more effort on the front end and get a lot less ROI. So in general, Mexico it's magical. I always say that, and it is a multiplier. But guys, I'm coming up right on the hour. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. I plan on doing these at least weekly. Be sure to leave questions in the comments below. Reach out to me on Instagram. I dropped it there, and I shall see you on the next one. Cheers.